and welcome. I'm so happy that you're all here. Hello. It's popping. Yeah, it's going down. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. But hi, everyone. It's so good to see you here. I'm Michelle, and I'm very nervous. I always get really nervous before I have to teach in front of people because I'm an introvert, but I keep almost losing my breath. So maybe that's a reminder that we all should stop and take a breath for a second. Maybe it's the first time you've thought about your breath all day. Let's take a deep breath in and exhale it out. And deep breath in. And exhale it out. One more time, deep breath in. All right. And like I said, I get very nervous before I teach, and it's just something that I can't help. I don't know. I'm not going to try and fight it anymore, but I love to pull a card before I teach class or before I'm talking to people other than my dog, just because it helps remind me that I'm here for you and to deliver a message to you and to help you, which is way more important than my fragile little baby ego. Also, this deck feels so small. This is the Sacred Rebels deck. Does anyone have this one? It looks like this. It's a great deck. I'm going to go ahead and pull a card for us, and then we'll jump into the content and get started. So maybe you're here for a specific reason to learn more about growth. Maybe you're just here to see what the fuck this is going to be all about. Great. Hopefully this message will resonate with you. Hi, Claudia. All right. Oh my gosh, how cool. Okay, this card says focus on the light. It's number 37 if you are into numerology and that is meaningful to you. I don't know what the fuck that means in numerology, but it sounds great. 37 seems like a great year, to be honest, right? Just before 40. All right, so focus on the light. I'll read the beginning of this, and then I'll sort of drop it into Mighty Networks if you want to see the rest of it, because it's 3 pages long. But focus on the light. A tremendous force of light is gathering around you. It's attracted to the purity of your intention to create from your heart. As your intention grows, so does the light. As the light grows, so does your intention. Magic wants to happen for you now. The synchronicity, perfect timing, opportunities, and information that are needed will seem to be drawn right to your door. Hopefully this is one of them. You may start to feel as if you cannot walk outside without stumbling into something helpful, wonderful, and inspiring. I think that's kind of sweet. Okay, cool. I'll fucking take that. I'll take a picture of the rest of this and I'll drop it into Mighty Networks if you want to see it. But that seems lovely. Does anyone resonate with that card even a little bit? Give me a thumbs up or drop an emoji into the chat. Okay, cool. Here for it. Yes. Raise the roof. We love to see it. Okay, fabulous. Before we get started and I start teaching you, I want to kind of know who I'm talking to. So if you could pop into the chat and let me know your name, your pronouns, and where you're tuning in from, and maybe what you wanted to learn from this class today. I would love to deliver something that you are hoping to get out of it. So let me know so I can make sure that I hit all the questions that you have. And I'm still letting people in from the waiting room. So we'll have some people jumping in, but if you just joined, drop your name, where you're tuning in from in the world, your pronouns into the chat, and maybe let me know what you want to learn today or what brought you here. And if you're in the North Node, give a little shout out if you're in the North Node, maybe drop an emoji or just say I'm a North Noder. North Node is our private members community in holisticism. So if you see a North Noder in here, you can definitely look to them to help you if you have any questions, because they're brilliant geniuses. Or if you're another student of mine, maybe if you were in IWA or PCCL, give me a little what's up. I would love to see you. Or if you don't know who the fuck I am, that's okay too. Welcome. Hi. Okay, cool. Kayla in LA, Morgan in Vancouver, growing my business in an ethical way. I love that. Raquel, hi Raquel. Hi Susan. Crystal from Australia, awesome. Hi Danny. Hi Rose. Hi Naomi. North Noder. Dana. Hey Madeline. Emma. Hi Phoenix, good to see you. Allie, Jess. Steph, Giselle, I just texted you this morning. Erica, hey Erica. Marnie, awesome. I see so many friends, so many North Noders in here. Love to see it. Super cool. If you want to do something that if you are planning on asking questions in this class, if you could pop your pronouns, if you feel comfortable doing that, into your name, just so I don't misgender you if I call on you, because that would suck. The way that you can do that is you just go to the participants tab, you hover over your name, and you can just rename yourself. That just makes this space a little bit more inclusive. Okay, cool. Lots of people all over the world, North Notre Best. Thanks, Lacey. I appreciate that. Okay, cool. Fabulous. So I'm going to go ahead and make myself the main screen, pin myself. There we go. And jump into the content. Hi, Katie. Hey, Jamie. All right. Yes, I'm going to jump into the content. So let me pull up my little slideshow. Ta-da! All right, let me just shrink myself so you can see this. Welcome to today's class. We're talking about the roadmap to 2021, profitability and purpose, and how to create that in our businesses and our lives. And in this class in particular, we're talking about growth. I've got 3 more classes after this for the next 3 weeks. Every Tuesday at this time, they're free to talk about the 4 different pillars of intuitive business, which we'll get into. But all of the goal, when we sat down as a team at Holisticism, we walk it back a sec, we really wanted to create resources to make the next year feel amazing. And like you had everything that you needed to build the life that you wanted to build and to have a magical, intuitive experience doing that in business. Oh, can you see? I'm not mirrored, am I, on your guys' screen? Okay, perfect. Just on mine. Okay, great. So we wanted to isolate the 4 different areas of intuitive business, which you can also that can be your life, and break them down and maybe create some goals around them, create a little bit of magic and momentum in those directions. And honestly, just shine a light on them to create more thoughtfulness and more intentionality. So my goal today is to shine a light on growth and what growth means, because I feel like this term gets misconstrued a lot, and to help you by the end of this know what you need to do to either create your growth goals or your growth spells, cast some growth spells in 2021 for whatever it is that you want to do in this upcoming year. Sound good? Drop an emoji into the chat if you agree or you don't. Let me know that you're here. Anybody? Fabulous. Okay, cool. All right, so let's get into it. So today's plan, we're going to tackle a couple of things. And if I skip anything, or if there's something that's not on this list that you want to learn more about, I'll stay on for tons of questions at the end. So I'm going to try and get through all of this in the next hour, and then questions we'll reserve a little bit of time in the end for. So we're going to be talking about the 4 pillars of intuitive business. You probably already know them. I already mentioned them, but we'll dive a little deeper into them. We're going to talk about how to set growth goals. We're going to talk about how to build community on a budget and why there's a difference between community and an audience, and most people want to build an audience. And I'm also going to talk about the best growth hack ever, in my humble opinion, that I've learned after being in this world for some time, building a business, growing a business, all that good stuff. And by the way, I'm Michelle. I'm the founder and head witch in charge at Holisticism. I'm teaching this class. My pronouns are she, her. I am a Pisces, Sun, Cancer, Rising, Scorpio, Moon. So I love to cry, and I have a lot of feelings. And I worked in tech for 6 years before I started Holisticism. Holisticism isn't my first business, but it's my first intuitive business. And that's how I do my work and I run my job. I like to use magic and intuition and the Akashic records and my big brain to build a business that I love, that has a positive impact on the world. That's the hope. I'm also an introvert, so I have been social distancing since birth, and that's why I get a little nervous before I talk in front of large groups of people. I love the internet, and I love Holisticism. It started as this little community via email that has now grown to or not hundreds of thousands, but tens of thousands of email subscribers that I get to talk to every week. Some of you might be on our email list. And I feel really lucky that I get to do my job and help wellness practitioners and help intuitive business owners do their things. I'm also a witch and I have Italian lineage and heritage. So I practice some forms of Italian witchcraft. And that's a big part of my identity. There's a lot more about me that can't fit into just memes and slides, but if you want to know more, let's just be friends. Sound good? Okay, so now that you know who I am, let's jump into the actual content, why you're here. I'm going to go full screen and I'm just going to move myself so that you can see. All right. The 4 pillars of intuitive business. If you want to dive deeper on this concept, I have a whole podcast episode on the 12th house, which is our Holisticisms podcast about the 4 pillars. I recommend it if this concept is interesting to you. But from where I sit, there are 4 pillars when it comes to an intuitive business that basically hold this business up: growth, revenue, retention, and impact. In order to have a healthy business, you need to pay attention to all 4 of these areas in your business and in your work. Most of the time we're paying attention to 2, right? We're thinking about growth and revenue. And then we're like, well, that's it, right? I got a business. And you do, but you might not have a business that has a lot of longevity or that has a deep community impact or deep focus, or that feels like something that is generative to you and to the people that you help. Now, if that stuff doesn't matter to you, that's totally cool. But those are priorities that are important to me. And from the people that I know and I work with, other intuitive business owners, those things are really important, right? How can we have businesses that pour back into us, that support us and resource us, while also supporting our communities, and that do that in a way that feels authentic to who we are, so that we can bring all of our weirdness into what we do and not hide behind some other identity and really live our purpose, because I think that's the point, at least for me. So I love to talk about these 4 pillars. We talk about them a lot in the North Node. My North Noders are like, yeah, she won't shut up about it. And that's the focus or the sort of framing of the next 4 weeks of content of these classes that we're delivering. But today we're talking about growth, obviously. That's why you're here. Now, all 4 of these pillars work together as sort of an ecosystem to support your intuitive business across the board. And the 4 pillars really inform each other. You can think of them as being sort of fluid and pushing and pulling against each other. And so we can't really just isolate one, right? And just think about one without considering the others, which is why I'm giving you a heads up that these are other things to be thinking about while we talk about growth, because we're not creating these goals in a little bubble. So we are going to be talking about growth today, but keep in mind that revenue, retention, and impact are also things that are going to be affected by your growth goals, and vice versa. Your growth goals would be impacted by your revenue goals, your retention goals, and of course, your impact goals in the work that you do. Okay, great. So what's growth, right? Like we maybe hear the term growth hacking. Actually, I would love to hear from you. What do you consider growth, or what what's the connotation that pops into your head when you think of growth? Maybe when you signed up for this class, what did you think you were going to learn about? Bigger than yesterday, scaling your biz, nice. Anybody else? Grass. Okay, cool. I love that, like instant association. More impact, more people, more reach, making more money, clients, more opportunities, growth marketing. Yes, right? Expansion, personal and professional, move closer to uncomfortability. I like that. Oh, uncomfortably. There we go. What's going on with my mouth? More process and systems. Ooh, that sounds like a real boner killer, doesn't it? Awareness, bigger audience, evolution, that overnight success myth. Oh girl, that overnight success myth. We hate to hear it. I wanted to learn a better way to think about growth than capitalist reaching. Yes. Capitalism is accumulation. Well, it's not the only thing, but a symptom of capitalism is accumulation for the sake of accumulation, right? As opposed to extractive accumulation. So like basically destroying everything in your path in order to accumulate in that moment, which is not regenerative, right? It's not that dope. Okay, empowerment. Amanda, also like pressure, totally. Yeah, When more eyes are on you, that means that you've got more positive and also more negative perceptions that are headed your way. Some of you might be like, I don't like this girl. And you're meeting me for the first time today, maybe. And that's a symptom of growth, right? We're going to run into more people who don't like us, but we're also going to run into a lot of people who fucking love us. And that's cool, right? It's cool and also not cool. It just is. So, okay, those were all amazing, amazing, amazing answers. Thank you. Thank you for humoring me. From where I sit and from where I'm going to teach this class and the way that I'm going to talk about growth is expansion, evolution in terms of growing and growing up or growing forward, as opposed to the Jupiterian type of growth, which is like Alice in Wonderland, just taking that pill that just makes her expand and get really big, right? And it ruins like everything around her. She's like destroying houses, like her shoes don't fit anymore. It's a mess. So growth, just for growth's sake, isn't necessarily positive. It's not necessarily good. It's just like, being more magnetic, right? Like that's great, but you might magnetize things that you don't want, right? But you're more magnetic. You weren't specific about it. Same thing with growth. Sometimes we just say, I want to grow, I want to get bigger, I want more, but we don't think about all the other things that come along with growth that may or may not be positive things that we were intentionally creating. So for me, I want to create growth goals that are intentional and thoughtful, and that are moving me in the direction of my other goals in terms of my 4 pillars of intuitive business: my revenue, my retention, my ability to develop a relationship ongoing with someone, and my impact, how I'm going to help my community long term. When it comes to this part of the 4 pillars of intuitive business, I think of it as spring, right? It's like where all of your hard work that you have really laid the foundation for, the planting that you did earlier, the seed that's been growing in the dark, maybe growing, unsure if it's going towards the sun or if it's like going down into doom, right? As it's growing its little tendrils, eventually breaks out of the dirt and finds the sun, finds some growth. So that's this part of your business. And for that reason, growth can sometimes feel like a long slog because there are so many other steps that we have to sort of set into place before we sometimes see the results that we want to see. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to grow. It just means that we have to sort of set our expectations, right? From a business perspective and an intuitive business perspective, we might think of growth goals or creating growth around our audience, or perhaps around our community, which is different than an audience. Your audience is people, if you think about it, let's use this metaphor, people who are walking down a street and you are a storefront. So in order to get a bigger audience, you would just need to be on a street that has more foot traffic, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that your store is going to do better. You can have, and I'm sure we know, and we've heard lots of horror stories of influencers who have hundreds, thousands, millions of followers who can't sell a single product, or who can sell like 2 products and they can't actually make their rent doing what they're doing, right? Which proves to us that an audience doesn't necessarily equal or equate success or a healthy business. But what does is community. When you can convert someone from an audience member, which is sort of this super high level, to a community member, which means that you have a relationship to them, as opposed to your audience, which is sort of a parasocial relationship, meaning that you have a one-sided relationship with them. They're ingesting your content, they're watching you, you don't really know that they exist. Your community are people who you actually have a relationship with, that you know. And eventually our community members become the people who buy our product, who become our consumers, our customers, our clients, our support network. And that's really fucking cool. But maybe you want to build an audience, maybe you want to build a community, maybe you want to build both. Maybe you want to build your following, which is subtly different, has a little different flavor. Maybe you want to build your team, the people that work with you or who you connect with or you collaborate with. Or maybe you want to build something like your email list, which is different than the optics that we see on Instagram, which are all public, right? An email list is something that's behind the scenes. And it's also one of the best ways for you to communicate and connect with your community and to really build a relationship with them over time. Your email list is also something that no one can take away from you. So no algorithm on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok can change overnight and prevent you from being able to reach your audience the way that you want to reach them. When you have someone's email, you basically have a direct line to them. Now, if they open your email is a different story, and that's email marketing and that's email strategy. And the better you know your community, the better you're going to be able to communicate to them in a way that is useful and actually connects with them. But I digress. Okay. Yes. Building my team is where my heart is for next year. Oh, I love that. That's such a great goal. And it's also a really intimidating goal, I think, for a lot of people. I know for me, I'll speak for myself. It was really intimidating, but has been so rewarding. And then finally, we can talk about growth from a personal perspective, right? Because maybe you're sitting and you're like, yo, I don't have a business. And I don't really want a business, but I want to learn more about growth because I want 2021 to be like better than 2020. I don't know how it could not be. Great. That's totally fine. How can we think of growth from a personal perspective? Well, where do you want to grow? What new skills do you want to have? What new ideas do you want to maybe experience or jam on? Maybe what new experiences do you want to enjoy? Do you want to travel? Do you want to, I don't know, start something? Do you want to learn how to cook? This year, I learned how to play the piano. Well, I'm still learning. I'm really bad. But that was one of those like growth opportunities that was really meaningful to me that I didn't think, I thought it was sort of a silly goal. And it's been like really important. I feel like my students are like, yeah, we get it. You can play like Mary Had a Little Lamb, but it's been so important for my mental health. And it's just been really cool to be able to explore that side of myself. And I think that so often we get sort of like myopic on our vision for creating businesses because we're so passionate about what we do. And I urge you, if you are an intuitive entrepreneur or a CEO or a founder, to also create some personal goals for yourself so that you have an identity outside of your business, because your business is a separate entity from you, which is great and is really healthy. And you need to have that identity outside of it. It will make you better at your job. So just my 2 cents. Okay, so that's kind of what growth looks like. So how do we set growth goals? Just like, by the way, I'm allergic to SMART goals. I don't like them. The perfectionist in me like loves a SMART goal, you know, because I love something that's measurable and actionable and that I can like look back and see and be like, did I do this exactly right? And I know for me that they are unhealthy and they also don't work, because when I get super focused on a SMART goal, I stop being creative and I stop being intuitive and I stop responding to the world around me. And I get like sort of laser focused. I'm going to use the word myopic again, on just accomplishing the goal as opposed to checking in with myself and seeing how that feels for me. So I'm going to use the word goal, but you could also, but I don't mean SMART goal unless that is your jam, but that's not my jam. So just being honest. And you could insert instead spell, you could say vision, you could say whatever you want instead of goal, but I'm going to use the word goal just because we're kind of talking about businessy stuff. And maybe that is the easiest term right now to use, but I'm curious to hear your opinions. Okay, great. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. So setting growth goals, how do we do it? First, consider your other goals. Remember, this is not like, these aren't individual little silos of your life that you're thinking about. Your goals all affect each other and the different pillars of intuitive business that you have. So how do your growth goals feed and support the other areas of your business? For example, if you have a revenue goal to make $100,000 next year and you currently make $50,000, right? Great. Awesome. How are we going to make up that other 50K? How are we going to double our revenue in the next year? Well, we're probably going to either raise our prices or we're going to have to reach more people, right? We're going to have to get more customers. And beyond getting more customers and just putting that on our list, we're going to have to grow our community. We're going to have to grow our reach, because that's the way to acquire more customers or more clients. And if we wanted to like one up that goal and make it like superstar extra credit, I would say you probably want to build a greater community with the people that you're talking to. Maybe you even want to create, I don't know, some sort of ambassador program within your community so that the people who love you are already reaching out to other people and bringing them into your group. so that you can double your revenue, because that's a really big goal, but it's totally doable, totally doable. If you think about the other areas of your business it's going to impact. Speaking of that, let's just take that revenue goal of making $100,000 and you're starting off making $50,000. Fabulous. Well, if we're going to make $100,000 and this year we made $50,000, wouldn't it be easy if we just kept the people that we worked with this year, right? If we focus on retention, so that instead of having to make $100,000 next year, brand new, we just have to make $50,000 because we're retaining our customers from the year before. So that would affect my retention goals and how I'm thinking about retaining my customers and making sure that I'm delivering to them what they need in order to feel supported and heard by what I can offer them. And of course, that's going to affect our impact, because if we're thinking about our growth, when we have a greater reach, that means that we have a greater reach. It means we can impact more people. We can help more people. We can change more people's lives if that's something that we're trying to do. So think about your other goals. What else is sort of running around in your brain right now? Maybe you're like only thinking about revenue, and that's totally fine. But if you have a pen and paper, maybe jot down a couple of ideas of like what's sort of floating around up there. And I'll give you a little bit more time in a few minutes to go through some brain dump exercises. So consider your other goals. And if you have one that's really standing out to you, how does growth impact that? Maybe you want to write a book next year. Okay, great. Where exactly does that fall in your goals? Maybe what you need to learn is like how to be a really good writer, or maybe you need to learn how to copy edit, or maybe you need to learn how to write a book, because that's something you can definitely learn. The next step is sort of doing your back of the napkin math. This is like, when you pull out your iPhone calculator and you're like, okay, if I sold 100 of these, I could make $100,000. Or if I sold 1,000 of these, I could make $1 million, whatever, right? Where you're doing like the super, super basic math. You're not taking into account all the different things that could go wrong or will go wrong, or other costs that you're going to have. You're just doing the basics, right? Sort of like brass tacks. Also, feel free to screenshot this if you need to. I see a lot of people writing notes, and you can absolutely take screenshots. That's totally fine with me. Okay, you can share this on Instagram. That's totally fine with me too. All good. So ask yourself, once you do that back of the napkin math, if you've got, sort of like monetary or fiscal goals or numerical goals that you're thinking about, or not, ask yourself, what am I going to have to do to get there, right? So if you're thinking about a revenue goal, you're going to do some basic math to get there. But if it's some other type of goal, maybe you want to write that book next year. What are you going to have to do to get there? Well, if I want to write a book next year, I'm going to have to learn how to write, learn how to write a book, and probably have to get like a book agent. I'm probably going to have to send in book proposals and write a book proposal. So when it comes to my growth goals, where does that sort of slot in? Maybe that means that I have to take a class on writing a book. Maybe that means I get a mentor who can sort of guide me, or I join a mastermind that can help me, right? And then we're going to pop over to our last, and what I think is maybe the most important thing, which are your anti-goals. So what are you absolutely not okay with happening on the way to achieving this goal? For example, let's say you want to make $100,000 next year. You're like, great, sounds good. That sounds awesome. Love that for us. But you do not want to make $100,000 at the expense of not spending time with your family, at the expense of your health and well-being, at the expense of alienating your friends, at the expense of only focusing on making money, right? Or maybe I'm just projecting on you. I don't know. Pick your poison. You decide your things. Anti-goals, yes. We love to be contrary over here at Holisticism. It is so key, Raquel, yes, because you need to know what your boundary is, what you are not okay with doing in order to get to that goal. Because listen, like anything that you write down on this list today or tomorrow or in the next, 4 weeks before 2021 is doable. It's totally doable. Is it doable in a way that feels ethical and aligned with who you are? That's what you have to decide. And you have to decide what your pathway will be to achieving or accomplishing that thing. and how it's going to look for you. And let me tell you, there is always a more creative way to accomplish the goals that we have, like that we write down, right? You know, we don't have to do things the way that everyone else tells us to do them. We don't have to run businesses the way that, like, you know, capitalist overlords tell us is the only way to run business, right? Which is like oppressive and capitalist and patriarchal, which is not true, right? There's always a more creative way to get things done. Is it going to be easier? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Is it going to be more fun? Probably. But at the end of the day, that's the beautiful thing about being able to run your own business. You get to make choices that feel aligned with you. And you have to trust your own intuition as to what you do stand for and what you don't. And the more clear you are, in my opinion, the easier things happen and the faster they happen. So getting really clear on what your non-negotiables are, what you wouldn't stand for, what you are not, can help you get closer to what you are. Sometimes we need to identify things by what they are not before we can really clearly identify what they are. Okay. I'm just going to put someone on mute. Okay. And let's go to the next slide. Okay. So this is when you get to think of some ideas. So while we're sort of like spicy hot after those three, this slide, right? Considering your other goals, what are you going to have to do to get there? What are your non-negotiables? Jot down a couple of ideas that you think could pertain to your growth in 2021. These could be as simple as I grow my email list to 1,000 people, or I make $10,000 a month, or I get featured in Vogue, or I add 100 new Instagram followers, right? It can be whatever you want, but start to jot down a couple of ideas. And don't judge yourself. Don't be like, oh, this isn't smart. Like, just write it down. Like, let yourself go free with it. I'm going to give you 1 minute to do that. Okay. So as you're jotting down your ideas, I want to give you a piece of advice that you can take or leave. Anything I say, you can take or leave, like always. Trust yourself. I'm just here to deliver information to you. You get to choose what you want to do with that information. I really strongly recommend taking 30 minutes after this workshop to develop these goals more. And actually, I recommend this across the board in your life. If you have a meeting, block off 30 minutes to an hour after every meeting that you have to get in action. Because so often what we do is we sit through a class like this, right? Or we go to a meeting with someone, or we have a brainstorming session, and it's great, it's awesome. And then we go to the next thing on our list or to do, and we are missing out on all this potential energy and inspiration and actual like deep work that we could be doing if we just spent a little bit more time with this idea and we did one thing that got us in momentum towards that goal. I'm telling you, the thing can be as small as sending an email. It can be as small as just like writing all of those goals down and putting dates next to them on your calendar. It can be as small as sending a text to a friend and saying, what do you think of these goals? But getting in action, just get the ball rolling, will help you so much. Follow through. So I recommend 30 minutes. And we actually do this on our team at Holisticism. After every meeting that we have, we block off the hour on our calendars and each of our calendars, and we go work by ourselves to like just get some momentum on the idea that we were jamming on for an hour or something like that. Okay. Fabulous. I can't take credit for that. I learned it from someone else. So growing community on a budget. This is me calculating. Just like, and it's an abacus. How do I do math? I don't know. But growing community on a budget is totally possible. When I started Holisticism 3.5 years ago, wow, that's a long time ago. Feels like a long time ago. I had no money. I mean, I had some money, but I didn't have enough money to pay for anything. I couldn't pay for ads. I could barely afford to buy a Squarespace and like pay for MailChimp when I was on MailChimp at the time. Switched to Flowdesk. It's much more affordable. And so growing community on a budget was something that thankfully I'd learned working in startups, because although startups get millions of dollars to invest and to use to grow their businesses, often that money gets spent on other things like people's salaries and developers and tech, all important things. But usually the thing that the budget goes to last is building a community, building an audience, because it is something that you can do pretty cheaply. So I'm going to talk about that with you today. All right. So how do you grow a community? If you have, let me go back. Did anyone have growth goals for community that they just wrote down? Just like drop an emoji into the chat. If you're like, yeah, I want to grow my community, or you audience, if you prefer that term. Yes, yes, yes. Mm-hmm. All right, cool. Great. Cool. We're on the same page. Fabulous. Before I just say something out of turn. For most people, I think when we write down our growth goals, we don't necessarily write down revenue goals, because those are revenue goals that we'll talk about next week, which are financial. We think about growing our audience, growing our reach, growing our community. The bigger your community, the more revenue you're going to be able to make. This is just straight facts, right? The more revenue you're going to be able to make and the more impact you're going to be able to have. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a huge community in order to make a ton of revenue. Absolutely not. And to have a really amazing impact. No, not at all. Not necessarily. But if you start with revenue and impact in mind with a small community, and you continue to grow that and focus on those ideas, then when you have a bigger community, guess what? You're going to make buku cash. You're going to have a massive impact for the better, hopefully. So that's great. When you first get started, you don't need a huge budget, and you can grow this community intentionally and thoughtfully, and you can start seeing rewards from it really soon, really quickly. You don't need to have a huge email audience in order to make a significant amount of revenue, enough to support you and to support your team. You can have 500 people on your email list and still be making a healthy amount from what you're doing, which is awesome. You don't need to have hundreds and thousands of followers or subscribers. That's not a necessity. And of course, if you start small and you see a correlation between these things and you grow and you expand, you'll see all of those numbers go up. So you don't need a huge budget. That's great. I'm going to teach you some ways to grow your community for free. And the number one rule across the board that I think you need to do is be yourself. You just got to be yourself, because like we kind of already talked about this, but I'm going to go big in case you missed it. But the more eyes are on you, ooh, I've got a little bit of a hair forest. The more eyes are on you, the bigger you grow, the more you show up, the more you're going to hear that people don't like you because you're getting exposed to more people. And you're not for everyone, and that's okay. That is perfect. You should not be for everyone. I am certainly not for everyone. Trust me. And that's good, right? Because the point is not to be for all the people. It's to be for your people in your community and to really speak to them. And the sooner we can find those people, the sooner we can just be ourselves and sort of send out that, like, you know, that bat signal from our hearts of like, this is who I am. I'm being myself. Come find me. I'm looking for you. Are you looking for me? The more authentic we can be earlier on, the easier it's going to be to grow our community and to grow our community quickly, because people are going to see us and they're going to know they are for us or they're not for us. And while it might at first be tempting to be open to everyone, right? To just like, hopefully have everyone like you, eventually that doesn't work. And it actually slows you down. So I say, be yourself in all of your weirdness and your wonderfulness and your uniqueness, and just own it. Because that is so much more magnetic and attractive and honest than tricking people into liking you by being someone that you're not. Because then they're going to be pissed. They're going to follow you, and then they're going to be like, who is this person? You're so different than who I thought you were. And you don't want that. Just be honest. It's so much easier not to lie. Okay. Yeah. They find out later. It's the same with dating. Like, we got to fart on the first date. You know, we just got to get it out there. turn the lights on for sex, like have bad morning breath. It's all good. Like, let's just show people who we are from the jump. You get me? Because you're so lovable. It would be impossible not to love you. It's all good. Trust me. Okay. So all about farting right away. All right. So to grow a community, number one rule is to be yourself. But the second idea or theory or framework is to invest in human beings. So on Instagram, this means replying to DMs. It means answering questions. So if you ask a question in your stories, oh, there's a fly in here. If you ask a question in your stories and people reply to it and they write to you, reply back. Make a little voice memo for them, talk to them, interact with them. Don't just send an emoji or double like that thing. Make sure that you're actually creating a connection and not for the sake of like, oh, I want them to like me and I want them to buy my product in the future, but because these are people who can tell you about your business and what they need from you, right? Because your community impacts the product or service that you make and deliver because they're telling you what they need and what they want to buy. So obviously, if you want to be successful, if you want to sell things that people like, you got to get to know the people that you're trying to talk to. And you have to hear from them, what is it that I can deliver that can be useful to you, that you're going to want to get more of, that you're going to fall in love with? When you do that, it makes your job so much easier because honestly, like you don't even really have to think. I'm not that creative of a person. I'm really not. I just listen to what people tell me that they need. And thank God you're here and you tell me what you need. And I really appreciate it. Like every email that you send me or that you DM that you send me, I listen to that, right? And then I usually just follow your orders, which is great. So make sure that you are interacting and creating a relationship because people don't just volunteer information out of the blue, but they do tell their friends what they need. And when also our community feels like they have personal responsibility to help us grow, when they feel like they can make an impact and that their perspective really makes a difference because it does, they're more willing to share it, right? Because we all want to be heard. And at least I want to be heard. I know when I care about a product or a community, I want to make sure that my feedback is heard because I just want that thing to be better because I want to enjoy it even more and I want more people to get something out of it. When you're getting emails from people, something that's so helpful that like really goes the extra mile is replying with a video message. You can use this awesome software called Loom. I think they have a free and also very low cost paid version, but you can reply via email. You start recording your screen and you send a video back to them. It's so easy, it's so fun, and it's actually faster for me than replying to emails. If you have a reasonable number of emails that you get, this can be a great way to connect with people and just go the extra mile. Personalization, we love to see it. And then in general, like you're here to elevate your community. You're here to elevate the people that you're trying to help, your customers, your clients, your consumers, as opposed to elevating yourself. So recenter your story on your community. Shine a light on them. Make them the heroes of your story, as opposed to you and your brand being the heroes of the story. I got great advice from one of my mentors early in holisticism's development who said, focus on creating homegrown heroes and really elevating people from within. And I think that that was invaluable advice that I would love to just share with you if you also are building a community or a company or a business. Focus on the people, not the influencers out there who can get more eyes on your stuff. Focus on the people who are already here. How can you support them? How can you elevate them? How can you all grow together? Because that's a generative ecosystem, right? As opposed to an extractive ecosystem. Okay, the next idea or theory is turn free traffic into a community. So in order to grow, we've got to get more eyes on what we do, right? We have to move from the street that's not so crowded to the street that's more crowded. And then we have to be like, hey, come in my store. I'm cool, right? So we got to get that audience to come in from outside. A couple ways to do this. Instagram. Not that easy, if we're just going to be honest with each other. I'm sure, I don't know about you guys. Also, maybe take what I say with a grain of salt, because I don't really like Instagram. So go follow friends like Ksenia at Conscious Social Media Method or Caitlin at Caitlin Curiosity, because they love social media and they are committed and dedicated to Instagram. and I am not. But I will say Instagram a couple years ago, it was so much easier to be found if you were just getting started. And it was a great way to grow. Absolutely an awesome way to grow. I'd say in this day and age, it requires a lot more intention and thoughtfulness and strategy in order to grow there. You kind of can't just like stumble into it. And I think Instagram is important. I just don't think it's the best way to grow your audience and to grow quickly. Plus, to Karen's point, Instagram, Facebook, these places are maybe not the most ethical places that we want to be investing our money. Maybe not. I don't know. Depends on who you are. TikTok, much easier to go viral on TikTok at this moment in time in 2021 or 2020, December 2020. Like you can go viral on TikTok still, even though it's a huge platform because the algorithm's different and just because it's newer technology. So if you wanted to, you could start creating some content. It's probably going to be a little more time consuming because you're going to have to make more content for TikTok. We just had a TikTok workshop in the North Node, which was awesome. And you probably have to post twice a day. You probably have to post pretty consistently, at least for a couple of weeks. And your stuff might blow up, but it might not. Kind of just have to go with it and experiment with it and see if it works for you. But could be a great way to get more people on your page and who know about you, and eventually on your website or on your email list. Pinterest. Pinterest is one of my secret weapons. I know that Pinterest sounds fucking dumb, but it's actually really cool. It's effectively a visual search engine. When you think about Pinterest, it's not really a social media platform where we're going on and following someone. You might, but not really. What we do when we hop on Pinterest, if you hop on Pinterest at all anymore, is we type in something that we're looking for, right? Blue pillows, yellow wallpaper, teddy bears. I don't know, right? We type stuff in and then we are served up visual imagery that represents the search term that we're looking for. So if you are on you can use Pinterest effectively like you would Google SEO, and you can drive traffic to your blog posts. You need to probably have a blog post in order to do this, or you need to have a website in order to do this and to get the most out of Pinterest. By figuring out what keywords that you want to be associated with and then tagging those on Pinterest. And then finally, Google SEO. Google has something called search engine optimization. So if you hear SEO, it's always referring to searching on Google. Why would that matter? Because when you type in a search term on Google, let's say teddy bears, right? Everyone who comes up on the front page of Google is getting free advertisement for their website just by ranking. Google's algorithm is incredibly robust. It changes all the time, but its goal is to deliver content that's really, really valuable to the searcher. So if I type in a keyword or a keyword chain, maybe best teddy bears in Los Angeles, which would be a super weird search term, but let's just go with it. Google senses that I have a search intent. I'm looking for the best teddy bear, probably shops or places to buy teddy bears in Los Angeles. And it wants to deliver me the best possible options, the best possible content, because the better the content that Google serves me, the more likely I am to come back to Google over and over and over again every time I want to search a term or I want to find something, right? That's why Google makes buku cash, because we all use that instead of Bing. You get me? So if you want to get your audience, you want to get in front of more people and you want to do it for free, getting on the front page of Google or the second page of Google even can be really significant, because tens of thousands of people, maybe hundreds of thousands of people will see your website every single day. I think holisticism right now is ranking #1 for 12 houses of astrology. It might have changed. It might be like just on the first page, but that alone, when people type in the 12 houses of astrology, we probably get at least 1,000 people every day who click on that article. And the cool thing about SEO is that once you get it started, it's relatively simple. You pick a couple of keywords that you want to rank for and you create content around them. And then you kind of set it and forget it. You write the content, you write the blog post, and then you let it go. And it does its job. Now, the boner killer when it comes to Google is that it takes at least 3 months for Google's algorithm to recognize new content. And typically that's how long you're gonna wait to see results from SEO work. But once you get it started, it is the gift that keeps giving. It's all about the long game with Google. But the most important thing, like we're sort of burying the lead here, because the point of driving traffic to your site is to eventually convert people to your email list. Because just audience for the sake of audience doesn't really mean anything, right? Because you don't have any way to contact them. Who knows if they're like landing on the product page that you want, especially if you run the type of business where you have a cyclical product release, meaning that you're not evergreen. You don't have a product that you're selling all the time or a service that you're selling all the time. And it's not a, it's, you don't really have a relationship with someone when they're just hopping onto your blog or your website or your Instagram page for the first time, right? In order to create an ongoing, mutually beneficial relationship, we want to open a line of communication. And one of the best ways to do that is through email. So across the board with whatever you're doing, you want to make sure that you have an email opt-in form and that you're driving people to that email opt-in. You can do this through creating lead magnets, which is one of the easiest way, or content upgrades, meaning that there's a little form embedded into your blog post or onto your website where people can opt in to something that is going to be an upgraded version of the content that they're reading. So on the 12 houses of astrology, if you pop over to that blog post on holisticism, there's a content upgrade embedded there that says, do you want the worksheet for this blog post? And people type in their little email and then they get sent that worksheet. And in exchange, they are added to my email list. And this is important because this is my way to actually begin our relationship together, right? I don't really even consider it counting until you're on my email list because we're not in dialogue together. And once we're able to be in dialogue where you can actually reply to the emails that I send, I can give you tons of value and deliver value to you over and over again. I can show you how consistent I am. I can show you what you can expect from me. Then we've got a real relationship. And that's how you grow your community, is by being yourself and showing up for people and being reliable. Okay, so does that all make sense? Growth and community? Cool. All right. My favorite growth hack ever is to just embrace your jealousy, like the envy that you have for other people, that you're just like, yeah, damn it, this person's killing it. You know, the people that just like really rub you the wrong way. And not because they're problematic or harmful, but just because they like have it. They have something that you want. I want you to lean into that. And if you're anything like me, you're like, fuck no. I don't want to do that. But I recommend it. I really, really do. Because the best way to grow your audience is to not grow your audience. It's to borrow other people's audiences. Like, that's the best way to grow your audience, right? And if you have people in your, like, you know, community, in your bubble, who you're like, I really like them, I'm jealous of them, it's because you desire something about them. You either desire them or you desire what they have. And that's not bad, right? That's just like a charged emotion. And the odds are pretty good that like you have a lot in common, that you have a similar mindset or similar worldview, or you have similar communities of people who follow you. And so I say, for every time that you've been like, I don't like that person, and you're like, you know, sort of you're stalking them on Instagram, and it just, you're just like, I say, do the opposite of like hating them and just become BFFs. Tummy tap, like all the way. Become best friends with them. Lean in. Oh, Bonnie's upset. My dog's upset. Sorry. Okay. So jealousy and desire and pleasure and abundance are all connected. They are all supercharged feelings, right? Jealousy and desire don't really feel that different. Really. They've got like a subtle flare of difference to them, right? And desire and pleasure, they don't feel that different either. And pleasure and abundance, slightly different, but again, not that different, right? These are all sort of like cut from the same cloth. They can be transmuted into each other. So why don't we just go from jealousy to abundance? And like, why don't we just do that with people who we think are fucking cool, who we're jealous of, and who we're like, I like you, damn it, you know? Like, why not? Also, let's get out of scarcity mindset. Like, capitalism loves to tell us that there's not enough, that there can only be one of us, that we have to sort of like climb our way to the top, that that's the only way to succeed, is to like elbow everyone else out of the way and like give them the middle finger, step on their toes, steal their boyfriends, right? Like that's not what we have to do. We can all be successful. Hello. I hope that we are all so fucking successful next year. All of us. And that we help each other do it because we're not in competition with each other. Because guess what? Someone can like me and like you. Isn't that cool? Also, like someone might really like me and not like you that much, and that's okay. That's totally fine. And vice versa. There are gonna be tons of people who really don't like me who fucking love what you do and love your perspective. And it's all good. There's enough room for all of us. And we can create room for each other. And when we are not intimidated by the success of others, when we actually embrace it and we celebrate it, and we can really feel that, your success will like skyrocket. It's just science. So that's my unpopular opinion on that. I'm sure that wasn't what you wanted to hear, but I would say if you have homework today, it's to take the person that you maybe obsess over a little bit too much on Instagram or something, and just reach out to them and be like, how can we connect? How can we partner? Actually, don't send that email because I would hate to get that email. Send an email that is fucking cool, that says exactly how you want to partner, and that like, I'm going to tell you how to do it right now. I'm getting ahead of myself. So many ways to partner with someone, but the point of partnership is to create something amazing together, right? There's like a special sort of magic of co-creation that's really, really cool. I recognize that we're getting to the end of time and I only have a couple more slides left. So if you can stay on for the next few minutes, awesome. If you have to leave, no big deal. I'll send you a replay of this, just giving you a heads up in case you get time anxiety like I do. But as I said before, the best way to grow your audience is to not grow your audience. It's to borrow other people's audiences and to get in front of people's audiences who are similar to yours, who are similar to the demographic of people that you want to reach, to your ideal client. So if you haven't already sort of scoped out who your ideal client is, super important, definitely do that. Because if, let's say, I'm going to use holisticism because I think you're all pretty familiar with the brand. If I was like, oh my God, love the people at Playboy, don't know if that would have like the synergy that I want it to have if we did a partnership, right? I think Playboy's community in general, while awesome and unique to them, probably doesn't have a lot of overlap with the holisticism community. Oh, maybe I'm wrong, but doesn't really feel like a good fit. However, like a sex toy company that's owned by a non-binary person that promotes body positivity and radical acceptance would probably be in alignment with what we do at Holisticism and would be a better partner option, right? Or sex toy company that talks about mental health and spiritual health in terms of relationships and sex. So when you're thinking about partnerships, you want to get in front of the audiences of other people by creating something really, really valuable for both them and for their audience, because you are co-creating something with somebody else and you want to make them look good in front of their people, right? So the first step, sorry, I had a little burp. The first step that I would recommend is doing a content feature. Like, get to know this person, really. If you've mostly been sort of anonymous or you've had a parasocial relationship, see if you actually like them. Do you vibe with them? Are they in alignment with your values and who you are and what you want to be? Do you even like them? I wrote here, because sometimes we'll meet people from the internet and they kind of suck. So that's important to vet them. And then think about the value that you can bring to that relationship, because that's really all that this is, right? We don't partner with people. We shouldn't partner with people just out of the kindness of our own hearts. Although kindness is absolutely part of it. We want to have, there's give and take, right? In every relationship. And that's important, because having a power dynamic where people know where they stand, where we are both giving and receiving, is healthy. So I'm just gonna let that sit for a second, because that was a little heavier than I expected it to be. But does that make sense? We want to create a power dynamic that is healthy and that is consensual, and where people know what's expected of them and what they can expect from us. And one of the best ways to do that is to tell someone the value that you can bring and how you can expect to help them, and sort of create a clear boundary for yourself, right? Of like, here's what I can do for you. Are you interested in working with me in this way? Because when we get roped into what often happens in business partnerships or brand partnerships is we get roped into things that we don't necessarily want to do that aren't aligned with us. And that degrades our brand, it degrades our business, and it degrades our soul. So we want to be really clear on like, look at the value that I bring to this situation, whether it's your amazing content or your incredible community of people or your unique perspective or the niche, human beings, like number of human beings that you can reach and touch. You have value in every single relationship and every single partnership. So don't you dare defer to somebody else and like act like they have the power. You're working together, you're equals. So that's really important, telling them what you can bring to the table and also what you expect to get out of it, what would be important for you, what you want to get. Just being honest, because some people act like they don't want anything from a relationship, and that's fucking sus, right? Like, of course, we all want to get something, right? There's reciprocity in all relationships. So let's just lay our cards out on the table and be honest about it so that we can decide if we want to work together or not, if it's a good fit or not. The next way that you can work together beyond getting to know someone, maybe doing a content feature on something like a podcast or a blog post, or even via email or on Instagram, is jumping onto social, which is a super easy way, right? You can do swaps on something like Instagram or on Facebook, if anyone still uses Facebook. You can do an IG live together, and that way you can sort of gently get to know each other's communities and audiences and get in front of them. You can do things like takeovers where you're jumping on their Instagram for a day and getting to know their community and delivering value to their community. This is the most important thing, right? We want to deliver value to the other people. Other than, like you just being your adorable self is totally valuable. But I would recommend adding something like a content upgrade, like get this amazing checklist that I made for you, or this free mini e-course, or go listen to my podcast where I talk about why acupuncture is so important and you can learn the 5 acupressure points that you can do for yourself for anxiety, right? These are all nuggets of value that we're delivering to other people. So that would be the point of that. And then finally, you can do things like sweepstakes where you are sharing your audiences and you're growing your audiences together, which kind of takes us into the next thing, which is doing events or email exchanges where you either co-teach with each other so you can get in front of each other's audience at the same time. Basically, it would be if you and I were like, let's teach a class together, I'll email my community, you email your community, and like, let's make something amazing for them. You can make that free. You can make that paid if you wanted to. I would recommend doing it for free. Or you can just teach each other's communities. So you can come into their community and teach something in your area of genius and expertise and deliver tons of value to their audience. And why does that look like, why would they want to do that? Because it makes them look fucking good, right? If they're able to like be like, yo, I got the hookup on the best social media advisor ever. Come to this free class. I organized it for you. That makes them look awesome to their community, right? And then you're going to knock it out of the park because you're amazing. So they don't need to worry about that, and vice versa, right? They are bringing their areas of expertise and genius that you don't have, and that's okay, to your community. And that delivers tons of value to your audience. At the bottom of this, your audiences win because they're introduced to someone who you like, who is an expert, and who can help them. And that's awesome. And usually you do it for free. So, all right, before I go on, does anyone have any questions about that? Because partnerships are the fastest way to grow your audience. And if I had to do it over again, I would have started doing partnerships way earlier in my business. And if I was just starting a business, all I would do is create partnerships. That is like all that I would do is think about reaching out to other people and saying, how can I provide value to your community? Where are areas that you need support? And here's why. I'm growing this business and this is what I do. And I would love to help you and collaborate with you. I'm finding difficulty finding other people to partner with in my business. I'm in booking for the music industry. Oh, cool. Okay. I don't really know what that means, but I would assume, because I'm not an expert in the music industry, but I would assume that that means that you book the talent. So maybe you want to get with music schools and talk about like what you're looking for when you're booking clients. Maybe you want to get with like locations, you know, where do people have music concert halls, or, you know, like places where venues, there we go, that was the word I was looking for, and like connect with them and talk about what that might look like. Maybe you want to connect with like producers, and that, because that's something that's more valuable, and co-create together. Totally depends. What if you're a projector? I'm a projector. So I can talk about that in a second. What stage of your business do you need to be at to start planning partnerships? I plan to launch next year. I would probably honestly do it as soon as you possibly can. You don't have to necessarily have a live business, but you should have an email list, because that's the point of this, right? Is you're going to be partnering with other people to collect emails. So you got to have an email list that you're writing to at least every week. I mean, at least every month. I recommend every week. You can do whatever you want, but I recommend every week, and that you have some sort of value to give. So if you're like brand new to an industry, then I would say figure out what that little gem or that pearl of wisdom, of knowledge or expertise that you have is, that you can deliver and you can teach on. It can be something as small as like how to make a really beautiful Instagram profile picture, right? It could be something as simple as that, and someone would find that really valuable and useful. And you don't need to be like the biggest expert in Instagram in order to teach that, right? So I recommend as soon as you possibly can. And okay, I wanted to answer the question about projectors. Yes, and there are tons of great examples for Sheridan. Thank you guys. That was great. Ashley, okay. Ashley Rich, for projectors, use your own excitement. Yeah. So I'll just speak really quick, really briefly, but I'm a projector. I'm an emotional projector. If you're like, what are you talking about? We're talking about human design. There are like these different design types, and projectors are supposed to wait to be invited. So I wait to be invited a lot, and people reach out to me to partner. And usually what happens is people reach out to me to create a relationship. Either we meet somewhere, or we get connected, or they want to learn more about holisticism, or they reply to a post that I've created, and then we strike up a relationship. And then once we do, the door is sort of open. I view that as an invitation to create and co-create together. And then I can start to pitch and create ideas, and come up with an idea for a partnership that could work for us together. I would never do a cold pitch. That's just me. Also, like, that's just me being an introvert. And projectors can email other projectors. So you are allowed to email other projectors and other reflectors you can initiate. Just a fun little heads up. Okay. All right. Ashley says, do you have an audience to make this work? Like, why do you have to have an audience to make this work? Why would someone partner with me if I have 90 followers on Instagram? That's a really great question, because you have some area of expert, you have something else valuable to offer, right? Like, community isn't the most valuable thing in the world. I'll tell you, or excuse me, audiences are not the most valuable thing in the world. Community is, but I'll tell you, I've partnered with enough influencers at this point with hundreds of thousands of followers to know that they do not bring in the most people to the classes that we do, to the events that we do, to the partnerships that we create. The people that actually end up converting the greatest number of new subscribers are the people who have like 1,000 people in their email list, because they are the ones who are actually fostering community as opposed to fostering an audience, right? So I wouldn't undercut yourself and be like, oh, I don't have anyone, like, this sucks. I don't have anything valuable to offer. That's not true. Your expertise, your opinion, your experiences, those are all valuable. So don't undersell yourself. Go back and figure out, like, where's the gold that I have in my experiences, in my past, and in my knowledge that I can deliver to other people. And then be really strategic when you're pitching people about what it is that you can help them with, how you could be useful. Or ask them, what would be the most useful thing to give your audience at this time? Is there anything that your audience is looking for that I could be helpful with? What do they want to learn more about? I would love to teach them for free, you know? These are all pitches I would love to get. And then, like, a bulleted list of everything that you know, if people were emailing me about partnerships, just personally. Um, okay. Yeah. Community over audience mindset. It's fucking lit. Okay, cool. Yeah, my pleasure, Ashley. That was a really good question. And I feel you. I will say, before I go on to this slide, when I first started holisticism, I was like, I'm a nobody. I have nothing. I'm not cool. I'm not an influencer. I don't live in Topanga. I don't have anything I can offer. And that wasn't true. It just felt like that. And so the way that I started building my community was by elevating other people. I would meet someone who was starting a business, and they would I'd ask, like, how can I support you? How can I help you? And that's a question most people don't get asked, really, especially people that are running businesses or that have some semblance of power, because people are always asking from them. They're always wanting to take from them. So just saying, like, how can I support you? And listening to what they need and then delivering on that. So sometimes they would be like, oh, I really want to be connected into a breathwork teacher, or like, I really want to bring so-and-so into my community. And then just facilitating that relationship, introducing them to someone, or like putting together a list of 5 awesome breathwork teachers that I loved. Even though I didn't have a website, I didn't have a following, I didn't have money to give, like I didn't feel like I had anything valuable, there was something that I could do. So sometimes you just need to like sort of dig at what the value is that you can give to somebody else to facilitate a partnership. Okay, this is my last 2 slides and then we're out of here and I'll stop for questions. So we've talked about growth today, and what I want you to continue to think about as you take momentum with the next maybe 30 minutes on your growth goals are your revenue retention and impact goals, and what those may look like in this next year. And how your growth goals are going to feed into these other areas of your business. I'm teaching 3 more classes. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to drop the link for you guys. I'm teaching 3 more classes over the next couple weeks, as I said, on these 3 other areas of intuitive business and how they work together, and how to create goals in them and how to be strategic and actually fulfill those goals. So I hope that you can join us. And if you can't join live, that you sign up so you can get the replay. And if you have questions, let me know. I'd love to answer them about these classes in particular. Just send them in to me at Michelle@Holisticism, and I'll make sure that I get to them. And that's it. Yay, that's all that I have for you today. So let's take questions. I hope that you enjoyed that. Thank you for sitting through it. I know it was a bit longer than you were expecting. And I think you're really great. So I would love to answer your questions. If you have to go, that's totally fine. I'll send you a replay. I'm here. I have an open schedule. So I'll definitely stay on for like maybe the next 20 minutes to answer questions. So go ahead and pop those into the chat. And I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to make myself a little bigger. Okay, cool. So thanks. I'm glad you guys liked it. That was fun. I just had a question with what you meant about by sweeps. Yeah, so a sweepstakes or sweeps, really great ways to grow your audience and to grow your email community, your Instagram audience and your email. Most people, honestly, now focus on Instagram, which I don't get why, because like it's a glamour metric. But basically, it's when you partner with a brand or a couple other brands, and you all come together and you say, go follow all these brands and tag your 2 friends, and you'll be entered to win this thing. It's pretty simple to set up. You can do it yourself. There are also some websites that can set it up for you that track the sweepstakes and then spit out a winner for you. Great way to grow your Instagram audience. If you can do it via email, I think that's even more significant because it'll get you thousands of followers, especially if you're partnering with bigger brands, which typically is what you tend to do. I don't recommend doing this like more than a couple times a year because it can feel a little spammy and gross. And I also recommend really knowing your partners that you are going to connect with, because you're going to be associated with them. And this is, again, really important to know your ideal client, because if your ideal client is very different than the brands that you're connecting with, then you're going to basically be accumulating followers and emails that are eventually going to unsubscribe or not follow you. They're not for you anyways. So more often than not, I think that these are actually a waste of time because they're not that aligned. And they don't deliver high quality leads. They deliver low quality leads. But if you can find really great partners, then do it. Oh, I'm so glad you all enjoyed this. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Yes. Okay. Awesome. I see people tagging themselves in putting their their ats, their handles in the chat, and I think this is awesome. And I would also love you to go drop your handle and start connecting with each other on the event in Mighty Networks. So if you go join Mighty Networks, I'll drop the link in here in a second, but go drop your, if you want to connect with people and partner with people, go put your info there, because then we can track it and you can actually follow up with each other. Shelby is ready to, yes, I'm going to say I'm opening it up as an invitation for anyone who wants to collaborate or partner and find partners. Please drop it into the chat. Okay. Cool. How would you do the giveaway via email? Just emailing my list about it. Yeah, great question. So do you mean like an email sweeps, Mia? Yes. Okay. If you're going to do an email sweeps, there is some software that you can use. Just Google sweepstakes. There's a couple different things that you can use. It's kind of expensive. So you can totally go get that software, or you can find a bigger brand who maybe has a budget and they'll be really familiar with doing this, because this is what publicists are basically paid to do. And great, or marketers on marketing teams. And you can get them to pay for it. You also can just do it yourself by creating a landing page, and then having you can make a landing page on Flowdesk, come up with 4 or 5 partners. All of you say that you're going to send emails to your audiences, delivering whatever it is that are in the sweepstakes. Also make sure that you have terms and conditions and all that good stuff, because that's important for contests. And then you all drive traffic to that landing page where people can input their email. And that's part of, being able to, people can have unlimited emails or whatever. You can set it up however you want, but that's how I would do it if I was doing a super simple basic version. And that is free 99, super simple. Brittany, at what point do you repivot and try something new when you have a community membership? I have Patreon to gain new members. How long should we something new before shifting? I think I'm gonna assume try something new before shifting. I'm gonna say that that's a decision that I can't make for you, and that you're going to have to trust your gut and know. Let me also speak from the I. So I'm very impatient. I want everything to work immediately and to be amazing. And so when I am thinking about cutting things and giving up, I run through in my head if that's realistic, right? Did I give it enough time? Did I really invest my energy and my power into making this thing work? Did I try absolutely everything? Is it depleting my energy and my attention? Is it taking away from my focus and the things that are actually working? And what else in my life is actually working? What are people telling me that they want? So before I'm like, fuck it, I'm not going to do that anymore, before I kill my darlings, which I very strongly recommend that you do, because you can do anything, but you can't do everything. Go through that for yourself. Did I try absolutely everything to make this work? Is it distracting and depleting my energy and keeping me from being able to really serve my community and the people that I'm reaching out to and that I'm helping in a meaningful way? Because if it doesn't have any, let's say it's not working exactly the way that you want it to be working, but it's not taking away from your life and your ability to do your job and to continue to grow and expand and make new things, then keep it going, right? To get new people into your community, there are so many different strategies that you can use. We talk about this in the Profitable Content Creator Lab, which is a course that I have, but there are so many different ways to get people into a community. I think the best way is to show them what's in the community, right? Show them what to expect from working with you and that they can get from you, and be a broken record about it. Continue to talk about it. Don't just show it one time on your Instagram feed, right? Continue to bring that into what you do, and don't be afraid to, don't hide the work that you do, how hard you work, or the amazing things that you put out. Brag on yourself a little bit, So that's what I would say. And I would also say, if a major component of your community is teaching or if it's delivering content, then give people a taste of that. Is there a way that you can give them a taste of that for free and get them more excited about whatever it is that you're doing? For example, the North Node will open at the end of December. So some of you who are in this class might really have enjoyed this class, right? And when you learn that the North Node is basically this, right? Me teaching a lot about intuitive business content, you might be like, that's interesting. I want to learn more about that. And this can help you make your decision as to whether it's right for you or not right for you. Okay. All right. It was big to hear your bit on not everyone is going to like you. Yeah, love to talk about that. What other things like that are behind the scenes of running a platform and community like yours? Oh, this is a bit hard to answer, but behind the scenes, you're going to fail a ton. Like failing is just part of it. And it's a strategy, actually. Like, I think that everyone thinks that this is, maybe I'm wrong. I don't want to project. I've been told that it seems just easy, right? It seems like effortless and like you make a decision, and that running an intuitive business is something that you just like go with the flow and like you do whatever you want. You don't wear a bra, right? That's intuitive business. But that's not for me the case. I think it's being really thoughtful and strategic. I work at least 3 months in advance for everything that I put out and that everything that I make. And there's a lot of thought that goes into it. So, and I'm really intuitive. And I think that there's a happy medium between the two, where you can be an intuitive person and you can also be a really thoughtful, strategic person. You can bring those two things together. So I think that might be one of the things. Also, like saying no to a lot of stuff. I think saying no is one of the best things you can do in your business. If you haven't read the book Essentialism, I so strongly recommend it. And then I recommend reading the book Atomic Habits. That phrase, you can do anything, but you can't do everything, is from Essentialism. And it's true. And so often when we're running businesses, especially as solopreneurs, we're doing everything, right? We're like, I'm the marketer and also the accountant and also the CS person and the photographer and whatever, and customer service. And that can be really hard. So knowing where to invest your energy and your time and what's going to get you the most bang for your buck and what also lights you up the most, that's most important, is really important. And being able to say no to the things that are not that. I hope that's useful. Amanda, what are your favorite intuitive ways to tune into authentic and conscious goals without the ego and mind coming in and trying to come up with growth goals? Usually it means writing down my goals and then being like, well, that's a douchey one, like just being like, oh yeah, that one I want for this reason. I'm going to just say this because it's sitting here. I always use a tuning fork to clear the space before this class. I cleared the space here. I'll do it right now. It sounds so nice. And then I like to open my Akashic records and I like to ask questions about each growth goal or each goal. Like, what do I need to be thinking about in this area? And how might I achieve this, or how might I go about this? I also like to marinate on these things. Like, I'm a crock pot, I'm a crock pot person. I need like a whole night to just sleep on it and let it brew and let it simmer, because sometimes I throw the ingredients in and I'm like, I don't think this makes sense. And then it's an amazing stew when I wake up in the morning, which is cool, but I just need that time to sort of like let it brew. And that's why I think writing your goals right now is really important, as opposed to writing them on January 31st or December 1st or December 7th or January 7th, like whenever, because you have time, you have spaciousness to really like sit with these ideas and be like, what do I want my life to look like? Maybe you want to take like all of July off next year. Maybe you want to have a kid in 2 years. And so you need to start thinking about that. Maybe I don't know, you want to grow your team. You're going to have to start laying the foundation for that. And also just tapping in, asking yourself, like, to what end? What am I thinking I'll get out of this? What is the intention? And then looking at how all of your goals connect with each other. And I would say, if you have any goal that sort of like sticks out like a sore thumb because it doesn't feed the other ones, I would maybe like double click on that and think about it. Okay. Tech question. How did you project yourself on the slides? Great cue. I use a platform called, I I think it's still in beta. It's really cool. Let me type it in. It's a great name. And it's really cool. I'll show you some of the things I can do. I can change colors. I can look like this. I can move myself. I can like ghost out, and it's great. You can share tons of stuff. Now I'm going to go back to how I was. Okay. Bye, Christine. The bleeps and bloops are very cute and very techy. How do you find out about all this cool shit? It's the old tech person in me. Okay. That's open to everyone now, but you have to use a Mac. Yeah, it's really cool. Okay. Alrighty. Do you recommend reading them in that order? Yeah, I recommend reading Essentialism and then Atomic Habits, because Essentialism is the theory and Atomic Habits is actually how to do it in practice. So if I was only going to read one, I'd read Atomic Habits. Also, I read it every year. It makes me cry. It's my favorite book. It's not a productivity book to me at all. It's like a religious experience. But yeah, I think that reading them together is really helpful. Cool. And I'm just going to see if there's any more questions. Oh, Crystal, this is a good one. I've always felt very intuitive, but sometimes doubt myself. How can we know if we're making decisions intuitively or just guessing? Practicing and listening to your intuition and just checking in with yourself. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. Intuition is just information. And so we're getting information all day, every day. Think about, our eyes take in information constantly that we don't see, right? Like when I lose my stuff all the time. I'm a Pisces, my husband's a Virgo. So our house is a mess and it's also organized at the same time. I'm the mess. And I would lose my wallet pretty much every day, even though I'm not going anywhere. And it's always in plain sight. It's just that my eyes are not, my eyes are taking in the information, but my brain is not. So this is all to say, we're always taking in information. Your intuition is just information that you're probably taking in, but maybe not listening to all the time. So just paying a little bit more closer attention to it, shining a light on it, and then experimenting and seeing how it works. And sometimes applying the information that you have and sometimes not. Because our intuition, sometimes we shouldn't listen to it, right? There are some situations where we shouldn't. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. Okay, Moon and Pisces, I do the same thing 5 times a day. Yeah, Pisces. Okay. All right, y'all. Well, I think that's it. We went over just a little bit, but I hope that you enjoyed this call, and my pleasure. Thank you for joining me. I had so much fun. I'm not even sweating that much anymore in my armpits, which is great news. I'm going to drop the link to next week and the next couple weeks lessons where we're talking about revenue, retention, and impact, and how to build those goals and also how to achieve those goals, or some ideas for how to achieve them, because you have your own unique way that you're going to do it. But I'd love to see you there. If you enjoyed this, please share it with friends. I'm going to send you the replay, and I'll also drop the replay into Mighty Networks, and I'll put a link to Mighty Networks so you all can connect with each other there. But I hope that you enjoyed this. Thank you for coming, and I hope you have an awesome rest of your day. Okay. Love you. Bye.